Hey, girlfriend, you know who you are. You have big, big dreams. You want to write a book, stand on a TED Talk stage, be a life coach offering wisdom from your RV in Montana, a cafe in Barcelona, or a beach chair in Tulum. Your other girlfriends and your family, they don't always get your biz savvy. Why do you want to leave your JOB? Because you're a C.A.T.S, aka coach, author, thought leader, and speaker. Meet other change makers like yourself and find out how they make it happen. This is the Big Meow podcast.
So welcome, and tell us more about who you are and what you do.
Well, my name's Nicki Artese, and my company name is Artese Communications, and that's made up of two offerings. So basically, I'm a career and life coach, and I'm also a marketing and PR consultant, and I basically support anyone who is looking to, remove the barriers that just keep them from living their most healed, productive, and joyful life. And I do this by helping people gain a better understanding of their own behavior and the behavior of others, and that ultimately improves their communication, their careers, and their relationships. In other words, life, right? So although I officially retired from marketing, as a corporate executive and business owner in 2020, I am still selectively doing some consulting for individual entrepreneurs and for businesses too. So essentially it all comes down to some form of communication that helps people move towards their personal and professional goals.
So who is your target client? To me, it sounds like you really do the psychological background part of communication, but you also do the public kind of communication. So tell me who your target client is.
Well, I suppose it's wide-ranging, and there's, kind of a crossover between what people need personally and professionally, because I think ultimately the success in both your, work life and your home life depends on your relationships. That is essentially the essence to success and happiness and accomplishment. So I don't think there's, anyone among us who probably couldn't use some support along the way in terms of creating a better foundation for one's relationship, so that in your business, however you market that, or in your personal life, whatever your goals are, when you have the relationship piece figured out, I think it really changes everything. And that really begins, with self, understanding, the makeup of your own life and what some of your own barriers might be and some of the things that have led you to be who you are, so that once you have that, merciful, graceful, perspective for yourself, it's much easier to look at others through that same lens and depersonalize the world around you, so that you can just, focus on the end goal without all of the trauma that comes in between, I think, of being in human relationships.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like you shifted in 2020. What inspired you to do what you're doing now?
Well, before I started my coaching practice, I was a marketing executive and a business owner for about 30 years. And throughout that time, it was my role to lead and coach individuals and teams. And I spent much of my corporate communications career working with and for HR companies. So human capital was always at the center of both the products and services that I was marketing and offering. And along the way, I did gain a lot of experience with testing and assessments and performance reviews and other HR measures. And so through those 3 decades, I was helping a lot of friends and peers on the side with their resumes and their career searches, and also with their relationship, goals and challenges. So, really more than anything, the inspiration was, it just gives me great joy to be able to uplift other people by sharing what I've learned about human behavior and, doing my own deep personal work over the years. And because this has dramatically changed my relationships and my life, I want to be able to pass that on, because truthfully, in the past, the heavy cross that I've bared was feeling, disappointment and hurt in my relationships. I mean, haven't we all been there at some point, right? So I just wanted to be able to offer others, what I value most, and that's really being heard, being understood, validated, supported, uplifted, healed, and all without judgment. So that was really the impetus from, taking what I was doing informally through the years of my corporate career as a coach and a trainer, and just, converting that into a ministry and into a practice post my retirement from the corporate world.
Mm-hmm. You sound like what I would consider a pantry full of experience, where you can.
Well, I guess we've been on the earth long enough, right? We just take it all in and try to give it back, right?
Yeah. So on the business side of this podcast, give us a piece of advice for other women, coaches, authors, thought leader speakers, based on what you've learned from operating your own business. Give us a nugget. Give us a little tip.
Well, let me work backwards, I think, from the actual advice, because I can give the advice, but how to get there, I think, is the important part. So again, I really do think that, all success in business and in life comes down to the mastery of your relationships and the communication around that. And when you have done that work for yourself, you really start to be able to understand and gracefully accept your own behavior and the behavior of others, and not just cognitively. I mean, we can go around and say, well, that behavior of this person wasn't really personal, but we have to actually believe that, inside within our spirit and our heart and our emotion. Otherwise, we're just going to keep getting triggered, and that's going to get in the way of, performing successfully in business or in life. So reaching a point of where you can say, I can forgive because I've been forgiven. This allows you to, succeed as a business person and in life, because it's essentially all about relationships. And I think the process begins by, recognizing that I like to say there are two sides to every pancake, and that one hand clapping doesn't make a sound. And by that I mean, we're all just people showing up in every situation and discussion, projecting our beliefs and our perspectives that we formed long ago. And, I really believe if you can acknowledge and understand that people's good and what we perceive as bad behavior really isn't personal, I think all behavior actually, begins with the good intention of fulfilling a human need. It's just that sometimes, we choose negative actions to fulfill those needs, and people can get hurt along the way. So when you've done your deep personal work, you start to understand yourself. You can look at others through the lens of that same acceptance and mercy and forgiveness, and just allow relationships to actually build your business case versus be a hindrance, because essentially that human connection is everything in this earthly world that we live in.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's a big one. Perspective, subjection, objection. That's a toughie to work with, and you probably really appreciate when somebody's ready to shift that perspective. So I have a question for you now: is describe a recent challenge that you've been through and how you transcended it.
Well, that's a good question. I was hoping you were going to ask that, even though it's kind of, in a way, tough to discuss because that's somewhat ongoing. So back on 9/11, a poetic day, I got what was believed to be COVID, even though I never really tested positive for it after a bunch of tests. But it was a mild case, but the symptoms went on for almost 5 months. And it was really a long time before I could finally, say I was feeling like myself again. And so in that process, I faced some newfound fears and anxieties that I'd never really experienced before, and was wondering, is this ever going to come to an end? So I really had to draw on my faith and trust in God, which is central to my being, more than I ever have, knowing that, this lesson was to build character and perseverance and patience. And really, boy, did it ever. So, I know that God has plans to prosper me and give me hope and a future. So in my daily gratitude practice, which I've been journaling now officially for about 12 years, I was making sure to just be graceful and grateful in affliction, because I always know that things can be so much worse. So gratitude really helped me overcome that darkness, and the experience really taught me to have even, greater reliance on God, even more so than, family and friends. And that's not to say, that my loved ones weren't there and very supportive throughout the whole process, but there are many moments in between. And so for me, as a spiritual person, that was really the lesson to just cast all that care and anxiety and fear on God, and let peace be, brought through me or to me through that experience.
So I hear your spiritual inspiration. Is there an earth angel? Is there someone here who inspires you?
Well, there are people on the earth that do for sure, but for me, I think it's really all about living the most Christ-like, spiritual life that I possibly can. I mean, to me, God has called some of my earth angels home to him. And so I do believe that they are watching over, my mother and my father, to whom I credit, everything that I become along with God. So it's just the idea of just pursuing a God-like, Christ-like, existence and living. And, I've kind of coined a phrase that I like to stick by. I want to live a fruit of the Spirit life. And while that's a biblical reference, it's also a very universal message, no matter what you believe, because the fruits are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. These are not, words loaded with religious agenda. These are just words that I think make the world go round. And so through my view of faith, I focus on, coming into the world and showing up with these fruits as best as I possibly can.
Wow, that's powerful. Tell us a recent success story of one of your clients.
I was thinking about that, and I think the greatest example that I have is both a combination of a, marketing client who was a coaching client, because you're always kind of doing both, no matter which role you serve. If you're helping someone create a presence, get on the map, build their business, and build referrals and things like that, along the way, we know we have to let them believe they're worthy of that and coach them into stepping into that presence. So I think that the best example that I have that is recent was a therapist or counselor who came to me a handful of years ago with a part-time practice that she was really looking to make into something much bigger and eventually, raise her rates and move to a model where she doesn't take insurance. And that included and required a lot of course, marketing, getting all the basics on the map, like her website and her social media and everything else. But it also included a lot of conversations along the way that uplifted her into the belief that this is possible, you are worthy, these are the kinds of people I know you can attract. And so for what was a part-time business not that long ago, within probably a year of us working on her marketing and just, coaching conversations around the marketing and her own, experience, because she was, I think, 15 years into the business at that time and hadn't really done anything active. So a few years later now, within a year, she's really not taking any more clients. She raised her rates by 30, 40%, and she's taking all cash, and she has more people than she can handle. And she's had to come through a lot of experiences and hardships to get to this place. But I think it's the best example I have, and it just delights my heart to no end that her life has transformed that way. Her business has transformed that way, and she's super gifted to begin with. So, when the product is so gifted, and the person who is providing the service is gifted, good marketing certainly helps open the door. But it's what she became to believe about herself and the people she heals. And so those conversations were both coaching and marketing together. And I think I've found that there's not, much separation between the two. So she's a great success now, and pretty much everything that we put forth as a goal has become realized and then some.
Well, that's inspiring, Nikki. Very inspiring. So what's next for you? What's your big vision for yourself?
Well, I hope, Angela, that I think I'm at the de-jobbing stage of my life right now, but that doesn't mean that I don't, still have a lot that I want to give and to share. So even though I've retired from being a 70-hour-a-week business owner or corporate executive, I still am actively, in the world, trying to give back what I've learned in order to help uplift other lives. So I think as long as it's, God's will that I continue to remain a good guardian and steward of my stock market investments, kind of my day job, that finances, the ability to coach and to be a communications consultant, and have this, practice that's kind of a form of ministry. But I did recently create and am teaching a new online group it's actually Crossroads Church, and it's called Upgrading Your Relationships with God, Self, and Others. And it's a free 8-week series that begins on Thursday evenings in March 23rd. But it's open to everyone, everywhere, whether you believe in God or not, because ultimately we'll be diving into, relationship philosophies, some of which we talked about here today, and addressing things that people experience like hurt and betrayal and disappointment and anger, and also, just about what are your challenges relationally and what are your goals. So that's up and coming. But day to day, I'm just kind of, taking on referral from family and friends, those who are looking, for greater joy, upliftment, and fulfillment in their personal or professional lives.
Wow. So now, how do we connect with you? How can we find you?
The best way to reach me is through my website, and that's NickiArtese.com. So NickiArtese.com. All my contact info was there. The information about the Upgrading Your Relationships series is there. And the site is actually a little bit more of a marketing and bio site than it is a coaching site, simply because since I'm not super actively marketing the coaching business, I was just building from my existing marketing site to add those services. So I'm due for a redesign and a content update, but everything that you would need to know about me and what I offer is present there on the website.
Thank you so much for sharing all this with us and your very inspirational and empowering story. We appreciate you being here with us this morning.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Angela. It was a great pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the Big Meow podcast, sponsored by C.A.T.S Network. If you liked what you heard, please take a moment to subscribe and share this podcast with your friends. You can also join our network filled with positivity and possibility. Visit www.catsnetworking.com to join us and learn more, together with your magical, motivated, and mystical new friends at C.A.T.S Network. Let's transform 1 million lives with your message. Are you feeling isolated, sitting at home in your PJs? Or perhaps you're tired of the comfy sweatpants with holes in them that are hidden just below the camera? I mean, you could puke at the thought of another day of Zoom meetings and reporting to your BOSS. Do you want freedom from your home office desk or the office cubicle? Do you want freedom from your current career? Or are you frustrated that your online biz dreams are going nowhere? It's all too overwhelming. Where do you start? All the tech, the choices, and your message. Yep, I said your message, your brand, your voice. What is it? Do you even know what that means? Do you need a biz coach but don't want to invest the big bucks? Let's face it, being a solopreneur is lonely, but you don't have to do it alone. And here's a solution. Join C.A.T.S Network. C.A.T.S Network is a woman-only membership community exclusively available to you, the life coach or executive coach, the author, the thought leader, or the public speaker. If you identify with this list or want to work on adding some of these to your skill set, C.A.T.S is the place for you. Check us out at www.catsnetworking.com. That's C.A.T.S networking.com. Because let's face it, cats are better together.